Dear learners, welcome you all in the course of Immunology BZYET 141. Basically, it is a elective course, and today I want to discuss very important topic that is known as the vaccine. And dear learner, my name is Dr. Siaram. I am an associate professor, Discipline of Life Science, School of Sciences, IGNOU. Dear learner, my session is divided into two parts. Part first and part second. In part first, we will discuss the vaccine. What is the vaccine? And what is the how vaccine work? And history of the vaccine we will discuss in detail. And how many type of the vaccine will be discussed in detail. There are the 5 type of the vaccine we will discuss in detail. Type 1 type of vaccine is a whole organism. It will be finished in part second, while in part first, while in part second we will discuss the purified molecule we can utilize as a vaccine, recombinant DNA vaccine, nucleic acid based vaccine, multi subunit type of the vaccine. It will discuss in part second. I will also discuss the formulation of the vaccine, how can formulate various adjuvant we can mix with the vaccine. Ultimately they can improve the immune response inside to the body. I will also discuss the herd immunity. What is the herd immunity are there? I think you have heard the name during the COVID. What is the herd immunity? It will discuss in detail in part second. I will also discuss the detail various type of programs which are currently running by the government of India, the vaccine based program. So I want to discuss one by one. So what is the expected learning outcome of today's session? After finishing of this session, you will be able to define vaccines, how vaccine protect our body from infections. After finishing of this session, you will be able to explain the mechanism of the vaccine, how vaccine work we will discuss in detail. And after finishing of this session, you will be able to list of the type of the vaccine. I have already discussed it. There are the 5 type of the vaccine we will discuss in detail. And after finishing of this session, you will be able to describe the formulation of vaccine. The various formulation of the vaccine are there. We can mix various adjuvant in the vaccines. After finishing of this session, you will be able to discuss the advantages, disadvantages of the each type of the vaccine. So 2 days it is a expected learning outcome of this session. I have already discussed it. My session is divided into 2 parts, part first and part second. So I want to continue the part first. What is the vaccine? So basically vaccine, it is a suspension of weakened, killed, fragmented microorganism or toxin. Toxin, it may be utilized as a vaccine. We can modify it, and we can modify the microorganism. We can fragment it, or we can say it is a dead microorganism or killed microorganism or weakened microorganism. We can utilize as a vaccine. Other biological preparation, example monoclonal antibodies, lymphocyte, mRNA, that is administered in the human body to the prevent infections. So these are the vaccine, various biological preparation like messenger RNA, like antibodies, basically monoclonal antibody we can utilize to treat the infection. The word vaccine originate from Latin word varioli, vaccini, the cowpox. It is related to the vaccines. It is a liquid form of injection and given through the intramuscular, oral, intranasal route. And vaccine are available to protect about 26 infectious disease, with many more are in development. I think number of the infections are there which we can treat through the vaccine. So there are the 26 infection we can treat it, many more in the developmental stage of the vaccines. Immunization save up to 3 million lives annually. So you can see the data. With the help of the immunizations, we can save the 3 million, means 30 lakh millions lives we can save it with the help of the vaccines. Another thing I want to discuss, what is the history of the immunizations. In 1978, 1798, Edward Jenner discovered the first vaccine for smallpox. So you can see in this figure, the Edward Jenner are they are utilize the vaccines. Basically, it is related to the smallpox vaccine are there. So in 1798, Edward Jenner discovered the first vaccine for smallpox. In 1985, Louis Pasteur discovered the second vaccine against the rabies, and he demonstrated how virulent pathogen could be attenuated or weakened in the laboratory. Basically, in his laboratory, the microorganism we can attenuate it or we can weaken it. So ultimately, they are not able to spread the infections. They can able to enhance the immune response inside to the body. They are not able to they are not act as a infectious pathogen or virulent pathogens. We can utilize the various chemicals, and we can utilize the heat, we can utilize the other physical method, we can weaken the pathogens. A very remarkable study done by the Daniel Elmer Salmon and Theobald Smith in 1886. He showed that vaccine could not be produced by the live pathogen, but it also from the killed pathogens. So there in 1886, it is a very remarkable experiment are there. This shows that the killed pathogen we can utilize as a vaccine. It is a very remarkable experiment in 1886. In 1821, toxoid vaccine that diphtheria and tetanus are made by purifying the bacterial exotoxin under the leadership of the Emil von Waring in 1890. The toxicity is purified, exotoxin is then suppressed and inactivated either by the heat or with the formaldehyde to form the toxoid. Basically, in that days, the formaldehyde or heat we can utilize to inactivate the pathogens, or we can inactivate the toxin or exotoxin, purified exotoxin, we can inactivate it, or we can utilize as a vaccine. It is a remarkable experiment is given by the Emil von Waring. We can introduce inside to the body. Ultimately, we can fight against the pathogens. Another thing I want to discuss the adaptive versus innate immunity. What is the adaptive immunity and what is the innate immunity? So you can see it. Both they provide the defense mechanism of our body. So it is adaptive. Against the specific pathogen are change body cells, and defense cells in the blood like B lymphocytes, and defense cell into the tissues like T lymphocytes, it is the antibodies. The means you can say the barrier cell which are involved into the adaptive immunity, like T cell and B cell, which are and antibodies which are involved the adaptive immunity. Ultimately, we can protect our body from the pathogens. Our body can protect from the pathogen with the help of the adaptive immunity. Another is the innate immunity against the foreign bodies, including bodies, injuries, and the pathogens. The bacteria killing substances and production of the outside of the skins are there, the protection up to the inside to the mucous membrane, and first attack into the tissues scavenger cells. So you can see it here, it is the innate immunity. Basically it is from the birth are there. It is not adaptive immunity. We can adopt the immunity from the infection. T cell are involved and B cell are involved, even antibody which are produced inside to the body in case of the adaptive immunity. But in case of the, you can say it is a first defense line of our infection. So it is a adaptive immunity, barriers, the skins which are involved, tissues, various tissues which are involved. So you can say it is a innate immunity. So it is a adaptive versus innate immunity. Another thing I want to discuss, the immunizations. Immunization, it is a process that artificially induce immunity and protect from infections. So we can protect from the infection with the help of the immunizations. There are the two type of immunizations are there. One is the passive immunization, another is the active immunization. So basically we will get immune against the infections. So there are the two type of immunizations are there. One is the passive immunizations, another is the active immunizations. In case of passive immunization, it occurs naturally or artificially. For example, infant receive a mother's antibodies through the placenta or breast milk. So it is a best example of the passive immunization. Another is a person receive antibodies in a form of the injection, like gamma globulin injection we can utilize against the particular infections are there. So basically it is a passive immunizations. So basically some are the natural and some are the man-made. The various monoclonal antibodies like gamma globulin we can inject inside to the body. So you can say it is a passive immunizations. The passive immunity can be achieved by two ways. So you can see in this figure, here is the natural, another is the artificial. The passive immunity, the natural process, usually from mother to fetus through the placenta or by to the previous infection by the organisms. An artificial method like to the injection of the monoclonal antibodies or the vaccines. So here is the monoclonal antibodies we can inject inside to the body or ultimately they will protect from the pathogens. Another is the natural. It is naturally our system get immunized like through the breast milk or through the placenta. The babies they will protect from the particular infection. So it is a natural type, another is the artificial type of the immunity are there. Another is the active immunizations. When the it is again you can see in this figure, it is natural, another is the artificial. So through the vaccination we get immunized. Another is the through the infections. I think you have heard the name of the smallpox. If any person they get infected with the smallpox, again they will not get infected with the there is no need, even the memory cell will be generated inside to the bodies. So it is a active immunizations. When the administered the vaccine toxoid infection with a microorganism, the immune system kick into high gear and set up to the series of the reaction in your bodies. For example, an individual who receive from the first case of the measles or smallpox are immune to the further infections. So another is the active immunization. You can see it, we can activate our immune response by utilizing of the vaccine or by natural infections. Ultimately the human, they get immunized. So you can say it is a active immunizations. Another thing I want to discuss, the active and passive immunity. What is the active immunity or what is the passive immunity? It produced by the body's own immune system in response to the antigens. If any infections like microorganism they get infect inside to the body, the immune system they can produce the T cell, B cell antibodies. The number of the immune response will take place. Ultimately we get protected from the infections. You can say it is a active immunity. Passive immunity is received passively by the host, no development in the immune systems. Means our it received passively by the host. Any host like mothers, they through the placenta the babies they get immunized, and through the breast milk contain the high amount of the antibodies, they get immunized. The childs they get immunized against the particular pathogens. So means you can say the receive passively by the host, no involvement of the immune system. Take a time to produce a specific antibody in the cells. 1 to 6 days or 1 to 7 days it need to produce the antibodies in case of the active immunity. It provides instant protection, no time lag phase are there. Usually in case of active immunity usually protect from the longer period of the times. In case of the passive immunity, protect for a short period of the times. In case of active immunity, no applications in the immune deficient individual. Not applicable into the immune deficient individual. If any person they are immune deficient, you can say the immunocompromised patients are there. There is not applicable. Active immunity, it will not applicable in particular individual. In case of passive immunity, it is applicable in the immune deficient individuals. Another thing I want to discuss how vaccine work. So you can see in this figure it is a basically it is a mixture of the bacteria or virus using either dead or attenuated versions or mRNA or DNA introduced into the patient. So in this injection there are number of things it may be possible. It may be dead or attenuated bacteria or viruses are there. It may be mRNA or it may be DNA or it may be some polysaccharides are there. We can inject inside to the body, or ultimately it activate this the mixtures, basically the mRNA, DNA, dead bacteria, viruses, they activate to the body immune system. It also train to the body and recognize to fight against the viruses or bacterial infections. So you can see here is the antibodies are there, and it is the viruses which are present inside to they are able to recognize it. Ultimately they can clean it with the particular infection. So when the body encountered the real dead infections, it is primed to ready to fight for the body's health. So it is a scheme how can vaccine work. It is a mechanism. Various other mechanisms are there. Ultimately they will improve the immune response against to the particular infections. So it is a vaccine, how they can work. Basically it activate the immune systems inside to the body against the particular pathogen or particular antigens are there, they recognize as a foreign antigen, they will produce a lot of antibodies, they will activate the T cell and B cell, or ultimately they can clear the infection inside to the bodies. So it is a action of the vaccines. Yeah, or you can say how vaccine work. Another thing I want to discuss the type of the vaccines. There are the several type of the vaccines are there. I have already discussed it. There are the 5 main type of the vaccine are there. One is the whole organisms, they can utilize as a vaccine. First one is the inactive or killed or dead pathogens are there. Another is attenuated or weakened pathogens are there. We can with the help of the heat, or we can utilize some chemical like formaldehyde, or ultimately your bacteria or viruses, they are not they are not able to infect inside to the body. They can provoke the immune response inside to the bodies. So there are the two type of the it is divided into two type. One is the inactive, killed or dead pathogens, another is the attenuated or weakened pathogens. So you can say it is a whole organism we can utilize as a vaccine. Another is the purified macromolecule used as a vaccine. So it is divided into 3 groups. So basically purified macromolecules. The bacterial polysaccharide capsules, we can utilize it. Various polysaccharide capsule like lipopolysaccharides are there, teichoic acid are there. So these are the number of the other bacterial polysaccharide capsule. We can purify it, we can utilize as a vaccine. They are able to enhance the immune response inside to the body, or ultimately they can fight against the pathogens. Another is the toxoid. The various toxoids are there, like tetanus toxoids. So these are the produced by the particular microorganisms. We can collect it, or we can purify it, or ultimately we can weaken it. We can fragment our toxoid, or we can utilize as a vaccines in this case. Another is the vaccine produced by recombinant DNA technology. The various vaccine we can produce through the recombinant DNA technology methods. In this case, the particular pathogens, they have the particular proteins which are the antigenic property. They have the antigenic property. We can recognize it. We can remove the particular genes. We can incorporate into the particular vector. We can ligate it, or we can inject inside to the body. They are able to express inside to the bodies. They can produce the proteins. This protein produce they can produce the immune response, or ultimately your body is able to fight against to the particular infection. Another is the recombinant vaccines. And third one is the DNA vaccines, or you can say the nucleic acid vaccines are there. And fifth one is the multi subunit vaccines. It is another type of the vaccine I want to discuss one by one. So it is a type of the vaccines. It is first type of the vaccine, whole organism used as a vaccine. First one is the inactivated vaccine, dead or killed. You can see in this figure, it is a disease causing agent. It may be bacteria, or it may be viruses are there. We can collect in a particular bottles, and particular tubes are there. Inactivated vaccines through the thermal or chemical treatment. So we can inactivate it and then purified it. and we can add fluid or adjuvant, various fluid or adjuvant we can utilize it, and we can formulate it, and it is final vaccine we can inject inside the body. They are able to kill the pathogens. They can enhance the immune response inside to the body. They are able to produce the T cell and B cells, and B cell they produce the antibodies, and they can kill the pathogens. And T cell they can recognize it. The APCs, ultimately immune response will initiate. They are able to kill the pathogens. The specific pathogen are killed by the heat or chemical and introduced inside to the body. So here we can utilize the heat, or we can utilize the formaldehyde. Number of the other chemicals are there, we can utilize it. Ultimately we can improve the immune response inside to the body. Finally, the immune system can recognize them as an antigen and can prepare itself and fight against to the diseases. Advantage. What is the advantages? It is basically killed pathogen. These vaccine can be freeze dried or easily stored, and they are also safer, as there is no risk of the microorganism mutating back. It is very important quality of this category of the vaccines are there. The microorganism mutating back is not possible in this case. What is the disadvantage of the, as the microorganism is dead, it cannot mimic the simulation of the own actual as a live attenuated form. It is another disadvantages of this type of the vaccines are there. Hence it is often takes several booster shots to train and define our bodies. Example, polio viruses, hepatitis A and rabies virus, which come under these categories. Another is the live attenuated vaccines. So here is the disease causing agents. Live attenuated vaccine, we can attenuate the particular pathogens with the help of the several technique. Here is the suboptimal condition, we can purify, we can utilize it, purify it, or we can utilize the fluid or additives, or we can utilize as a vaccine. Here is we can utilize the attenuated techniques. Various attenuated techniques are there. Basically we can weaken the pathogens. It is an alive microorganism but avirulent. Streptococcus pneumoniae is the best example. It is more fragile and asymptomatic and type of pathogen injected inside to the bodies. Advantage, lifelong immunity with just 1 or 2 doses as the vaccines. They strongly stimulate the immune system. Disadvantage, require good maintenance of the appropriate temperature range to avoid the inactivity of the vaccines, and it can be given to immune compromised people with undergo the chemotherapy or HIV treatment. It is another very important disadvantages are there. It cannot be given to the immunocompromised people with the undergo chemotherapy or HIV treatment. Example, measles, mumps, rubella. It can be combination of the separate, and varicella and chicken pox and choti chickens. These are the choti chechaks. So these are the various example of this category of the vaccines. Dear learner, I want to summarize part first. I hope you have learned the various things related to the vaccines. The vaccine is defined as the suspension of the weakened, killed or fragmented microbes or toxin or antibodies are administered to prevent disease. The first vaccine, I think you have also learned, the first vaccine was the smallpox vaccine, which was invented by the Edward Jenners. You have also learned the immunity can be induced by the passive or active immunity. In case of active immunity, we can give the vaccines or the various the infectious agent like bacteria or viruses. It can immunize it. And there are the 3 type of the vaccine are currently used in the humans. One is the attenuated avirulent microorganisms. Another is the inactivated, killed or dead microorganism. And third one is the purified macromolecules. Dear learner, I want to take a short break. Don't go away. We will come within 2-3 minutes. Thank you.
A warm welcome to IGNOU. If you are creative, if you can write well, and if you can visualize, mass communication is the correct career option for you. I am going to talk about postgraduate diploma in journalism and mass communication, which is also the first year of MA program in journalism and mass communication. So any learner who has done a postgraduate diploma in journalism and mass communication is eligible to take admission straight away into the second year of our master's program in journalism and mass communication. Duration to complete this program is minimum 1 year, and because we have this inherent flexibility in distance education system, you can take up to 3 years to complete this program. The minimum eligibility criteria for taking admission in this program is bachelor's in any discipline. To give you a glimpse of what are the various components of this program, we begin with telling you what mass communication is, what are the various areas, various branches of mass communication. Then we go on to tell you about the various reporting techniques and beats of reporting, followed by media ethics, the principles, the codes of conduct that you must follow, and we also focus on the writing skills and editing skills for print media. Now this program comprises of 8 courses of 4 credits each. 25% of the entire program is practical based. So we have 6 theory courses and 2 practical courses. This program is so designed so that it will be able to make you more employable in the market. So it helps you build a career in print media, in radio, television, new media, as well as the allied subjects of mass communication, which could be media marketing, advertising, public relations and corporate communications, event management. This can also help you become an entrepreneur in areas like photography or having your own production house and so on. So I hope that you will be excited to join this program, and we will be waiting to welcome you here in IGNOU.
Dear learner, welcome you all in part 2nd. I want to discuss the another vaccine that is known as the purified macromolecule type of the vaccines. Purified macromolecule derived from pathogen can be safer option in comparison of attenuated or inactivated vaccine. So basically it is a very safe if you compare the whole organism we can utilize as a pathogens. So here is the purified macromolecule we can utilize as a vaccines. it is divided into the three group. One is the bacterial polysaccharide capsule used as a vaccine. Another is the bacterial toxin used as a vaccine, and third one is the vaccine produced by the RDT, recombinant DNA technology, which can be utilized as a vaccines. So there are the three type of the vaccine which come under this category. I want to discuss one by one. First one is the bacterial polysaccharide capsule used as a vaccine. The antiphagocytic properties of the hydrophilic polysaccharide capsule of a few bacteria make it more virulent. The various polysaccharide capsules which are available on the surface of the bacteria, they have the antiphagocytic properties. We can utilize it, we can exploit these properties. Ultimately, we can enhance the immune response inside to the body by utilizing of the bacterial polysaccharide capsules. When the capsule is coated with the antibodies and are complement, it increase the phagocytic ability of the macrophage or neutrophils. The number of the antibodies are there, they can bind onto the particular capsule, ultimately increase the phagocytic properties of the macrophages and neutrophils, and we can purify such bacterial polysaccharide capsule used as a vaccine. Example, Streptococcus and pneumoniae cause the pneumonia, constitute 23 different antigenic capsular polysaccharides. So they have the 23 active molecules. These active molecules we can utilize as a vaccines. You can see in this figure, it is a bacterial polysaccharide capsule are there. So it is a bacteria, it is cytosol, it is a gram-negative bacteria, it is a outer membrane, are there. You can see it. Here is the lipopolysaccharide. You can see the structure of the lipopolysaccharide are there. It is a lipid A, inner core, outer core, and O antigens. So it is variable. They can vary according to the organisms. In case of the Streptococcus, it will be different. In Pseudomonas, it will be different. So you can say it is the O antigens are there. The capsule are homopolymeric or heteropolymeric carbohydrate chain insert into the membranes such as the LPS, lipopolysaccharides. So they are able to insert in the wall of the particular microorganisms. So basically you can say it is LPS. LPS is made of the three component O antigens, outer core, inner core, and lipid A. And another very important chemicals which are present into the gram-positive bacteria, that is known as the teichoic acid, are differentiate into the lipoteichoic acids and wall teichoic acid, and they can act as antigens. They are able to enhance the immune response inside to the body. So we can extract it, we can purify it, or we can utilize as a vaccine, or we can improve the immune response. Another is the toxide manufactured from the bacterial toxin, and we can utilize as a vaccine. So you can see it here is the toxide vaccines. Basically you can see it here, you can purify it, the various toxin you can purify it, chemical treatment we can given it. Here is the inactivated toxins are there, or you can utilize the fluid and additives or formulate it, or we can utilize as a vaccine. So you can say it is inactivated toxin, we can utilize it, or we can enhance immune response inside to the body. Ultimately they are able to fight against the actual pathogens. The example, diphtheria toxins produced by the Corynebacterium diphtheriae, Tishner toxide by the Clostridium tetani, the vaccine can be made by purifying exotoxins. So these are the blue color. You can see the structure. It is a exotoxin. Inactivate with the formaldehyde to form the toxoid. So we can utilize the chemical like formaldehyde, or we can inactivate the toxins. So you can say it is a toxoid, and this formulation we can utilize as a vaccine. Example, diphtheria toxoid and tetanus toxoid type of the vaccine which come under these categories. Another is the vaccine produced by the recombinant DNA technology. You can see it. It is copy of DNA from the pathogens. Here is the DNA copies. We can construct the plasmid. It is a genetic material. You can see it is a plasmid are there. It is a empty plasmid, and we can cut with the particular enzymes, restriction endonucleases enzyme. We can utilize it and cut the both set. We can ligate it, or it is the constructed plasmid, and we can insert inside to the bodies. You can say it is a vaccination. They are able to produce the proteins, and these proteins, they can provoke the immune response inside to the body. Ultimately, they are able to fight the fight against the pathogens. So it is a mechanism of the action of the RDT, recombinant DNA type of the vaccines are there. The numerous genes have been cloned and expressed into the bacterial, yeast and mammalian based expression system that encode different surface antigens and disease causing the pathogens. And these express antigen are used for the vaccine development. Example, hepatitis B vaccine, which come under these categories. And third one is the recombinant vaccines. Inserting the DNA encoding an antigen bacterial surface is cloned is into the expression vector and transformed into the body, and in it produce the antigenic protein that can be provoke an immune response, and several microbes have been used in this production of the recombinant DNA based vaccine. Example, adenovirus, vaccinia virus, attenuated polioviruses, and attenuated strain of the salmonella, which come under these categories. Another is fourth type of the vaccine, that is known as the nucleic acid based vaccine. The first one is the DNA vaccine, another is the mRNA vaccine. So I want to discuss one by one. It is DNA vaccines. The DNA vaccines are there. The plasmid DNA, which encodes the antigenic protein, is directly injected into the muscles. It is a injected into muscles, and this encode the antigenic protein is expressed inside to the body, leading to the both the humoral antibody response and the cell mediated immune response. The DNA either integrated into the chromosomal DNA, or it is maintained in an episomal form for to the long period of the time. So it is a DNA vaccines are there. Basically, in this case, the plasmid DNA we can introduce inside to the bodies. And what is the advantage of the DNA vaccine? No denaturation or modification of encoded vaccine as it expressed into the host in their natural forms. As DNA vaccine cause the prolonged expression of the antigenic, it generates the memory cells. So it is a very important advantage of this type of the vaccine are there. Like DNA vaccine, it generates the memory cells. The controlled low temperature is not required for to the handling and storage of the plasmid DNA, ultimately saving cost. An example, adenovirus vector, double standard DNA viral vector, a DNA vaccine of influenza and herpes are currently in a human testing phase. So these are the DNA vaccines. Another is the mRNA vaccine. So you can see it here is the viruses. They have the spike proteins, like you can understand, like coronavirus are there. They have the spike proteins. this spike protein is coded with the particular DNA or particular RNA. RNA are there. So we can utilize it as a vaccine. We can inject inside to the body. They are able to produce the spike proteins. These spike proteins are able to produce antibodies. These antibodies, they can kill the pathogens. So these are the mRNA vaccines are there. It work by the introducing of the piece of RNA, messenger RNA that correspond to the viral protein. So basically spike proteins are there. It is a mRNA. They can code the spike proteins. We can utilize it or we can inject inside to the body. They are able to produce the antibodies, or you can say the immune response. They are able to produce it. Usually the small piece of the protein is found on the virus outer membrane, such as the spike protein. Formulation will be done by liposome, or it may be nanoemulsions. So these are the mRNA are there. It is very fragile. It will degrade very easily. So we can utilize the formulation like liposome are there. So we can make a formulations of the mRNA with the help of the liposome, or nanoemulsion. We can make the nanoemulsion with the particular nanoparticles are there. So their degradation activity will be overcome by the formulation of the messenger RNA by the liposome or nanoemulsions. What is the advantage of the mRNA vaccine? It need to cross only one membrane to be active in the cytoplasm, and no need for the promoters, and active into the non-dividing cells. And it is a cost-effective lyophilized vaccine, retain full biological activity. So we can isolate the mRNA, we can lyophilize it, or we can utilize as a vaccine. They show the full activity after lyophilization. Lyophilization is a very important techniques are there. We can make a powder with the help of the lower temperature like -40 degrees centigrade. And particularly any cell types including dendritic cells can be transfected with the messenger RNA. What is the disadvantage? The storage at -20 degrees centigrade, it is a big disadvantages. -4 Fahrenheit for up to 6 months, and after thaw it will be stored into refrigerator 2 to 8 degrees centigrade for 1 week. And these are the very important virus vaccines are there, that is produced by two company. One is the Pfizer and Moderna. It is they produce the COVID related vaccines. And fifth one is the multivalent subunit vaccine. So you can see it. It is another type of the vaccines are there. In case of the COVID, the multivalent subunit will not work well, and whole organism they are not able to work well, and then we can go through the mRNA vaccines or vector based vaccine are there. The adenovirus vector we can utilize for making of the Covishield. And you can see in this the multivalent subunit, here is the T cell epitope are there, here is the B cell epitope. It is a solid membranes, and monoclonal antibodies we can attach on the surface of the solid membranes. Here is the monoclonal antibodies. They are able to recognize B cell epitope and T cell epitope. You can see it. So basically it acts as a vaccine. We can administer inside to the body. Ultimately they can produce the immune response against the particular pathogens which are they are able to recognize the T cell and B cells. And it is highly purified proteins of disease causing organism or synthetic peptides are there. and it is considered to the significant safer than the dead and attenuated vaccine approaches. In producing synthetic peptide vaccine contain the both immunodominant B cell and T cell epitopes. So these are the multi-subunit vaccine. One subunit, here is the two subunit. So you can say it is a multi-subunit type of the vaccines are there. We can produce it or we can cure from the particular infections. So what is the advantage of the multivalent subunit vaccines? Advantage, as only a part purified protein of the biological pathogen is injected into the body, there is a least chance of adverse reaction into the patient. If you utilize the subunit vaccine, here is very least chance of an adverse reaction in the patient. What is the disadvantages? To recognize the separate and best antigen of the microbes for preparing the vaccine is not always possible. Only few vaccine can be produced in this way. Hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenzae type B, pneumococcal and human papilloma viruses, and meningococcal type of the vaccine which come under these categories. Another thing, I want to discuss the composition of the vaccines. Here is the various composition. I want to discuss one by one. You can say another term. Here is the formulation of the vaccine or formulation with the help of the adjuvant. It make what is the adjuvant? Adjuvant are able to make a stronger immune response if you aid it. Here is various adjuvant we can utilize for making of the vaccines. So basically fluid or adjuvants are there. We can utilize alum, hydrate double sulfate salt of aluminum. We can utilize it. Saponin we can utilize in the formulation of the vaccine. Another is the anesthetic, we can utilize it. Microsphere or nanoparticles, several nanoparticles are there. It may be biological nanoparticles or some metal based nanoparticles we can utilize for formulation of the vaccines. And fifth one is the liposome. Basically we can formulate our vaccine with the help of the liposome. We can encapsulate the vaccine inside to the liposome are there. We can utilize it, or they can cure the pathogen. The polymer, various polymer we can utilize for formulation of the vaccine. And macro emulsion, disperse liquid dispersion would be very high if you make the macro emulsions of your vaccine. So these are the various formulation, various adjuvant we can utilize it. They are able to make a stronger immune response inside to the bodies, and we can improve the quality of the vaccines are there. We can save our vaccine, we can store for longer duration of the vaccine we can store it. And another thing, we can add it immune plasmid adjuvant, cytokines or chemokines we can utilize it. Toll-like receptor ligands we can utilize it. Heat shock proteins we can utilize it. So it is a formulation. We will take the vaccine, we can formulate it, we can utilize inside to the body. They are able to produce a lot of immune response, or you can say the stronger immune response it will produce by the particular vaccines. Another, I want to discuss the Covishield. I think you have heard the name of the vaccine that is known as the Covishields. They save a lot of life in India. That is known as the Covishield vaccine formulation. So in this case, L-histidine are utilizing in the Covishield vaccine. L-histidine hydrochloride monohydrate, magnesium chloride hexahydrate, polysorbate SC80. It is also used in the Covishield. Ethanol sucrose, it is also used in the Covishield vaccine. And sodium chloride disodium acetate dihydrate EDTA, and water for injection. So these are the formulation of the Covishield vaccines are there. A lot of various chemicals we can utilize it. Ultimately, it improve the quality of the Covishields. They are able to produce the better immune response inside to the body, and this vaccine are able to fight against the coronavirus. Another thing I want to discuss the vaccine delivery. Intramuscular, oral, transcutaneous, microneedles we can utilize it, skin aversions, jet injector, and topical patches we can utilize. So these are the method to deliver the vaccine inside to the bodies. Another thing I want to discuss the herd immunity. You can understand through this the figure. If only if only some have immunity, they not immune. In green color you can see it, very few they have the immunity. Here is the immune. Another is the infections. Then it is possible the infection take place of the whole population. Another, it must be the immunity through the vaccines or the exposures. You can see it, the maximum number of the peoples they get immunized it, and virus is the contained. Here is the virus infection will not take place. So you can see the population after infection, or it may be through the injection of the vaccines are there, they get immunized. So you can say it is the herd immunity are there. When the large part of the population of an area is immune to the specific disease, if enough people are resistant against the disease, chain will break. The chain will break, spreading capacity will lose to the virus infection. While not, it means the R value it would be very less in case of the virus infection. While not every single individual may be immune, the group as the whole as a protection in case of the herd immunity. The herd immunity protect to the risk population. These include the babies, old age persons whose immune system are weak. Here is the vaccination program and their schedule in India. These are the various eligibility are there. Vaccines at birth, BCG, OPV, hepatitis B. We can start from birth, 6 week of the age, DPT, OPV, and hepatitis B1 we can. After 10 week, DP2 second dose, OPV second dose, and hepatitis B2 second dose, and 14 week of the age. So these are the programs, vaccination program and their schedule in India. And another is after 9 month measles, vitamin A first dose, 6 and 12 month of the age, DPT first booster, and OPV booster dose we can. So these are the schedule, various schedules of the vaccines are there. Dear learner, I want to summarize part seconds. I hope you have learned the number of the things related to the vaccines. You have learned the protein component of the pathogens that are expressed into the cell culture may be used as effective vaccines. You have also learned the recombinant vectors including viruses or bacteria which are engineered to carry gene from the infection, and microorganism increase cell-mediated immunity. Government of India has introduced many scheme of the implementation of the vaccine program in India. And you have also learned the reluctance of the refusal of the vaccine despite up to the availability of the vaccine is known as a vaccine hesitancies. Dear learner, if you want to clarify each and everything, you can visit IGNOU SLM and BZYET 141 unit number 15. Thank you. Best wishes to all of you.
Dear learners, welcome to IGNOU. You're going to lead with a difference. So how do you lead with the difference? The unique attributes of the university system through which you're going to go for the management program or any other program is the multiple entry and exit. It provides flexible learning where a learner can learn at its own will and at its own pace. It offers multimodal approaches like we have MBA, the normal through the distance learning mode and through online mode. So it has a multimodal approach. It has face-to-face counseling. It offers web counseling also. It gives interactive satellite-aided communication network through teleconferencing, and it also gives the radio counseling also. When we talk about School of Management Studies, it was the first school and it had the pioneer program of Diploma in Management. Till date, it has been offering around 14 programs in management and 13 programs in commerce disciplines. The school has international presence as well as it provides the programs in specific Asian and African countries across the globe. Now talking about Master of Business Administration. What are the objectives? What are the learning objectives of this Master of Business Administration? What are the unique features of this Master of Business Administration which IGNOU is offering? Let us see the program at a glance. The program name is MBA and the eligibility criteria for this program is bachelor's degree, minimum of 3 years duration with at least 50% marks and 45% marks in case of the reserved category. The duration of the program is minimum 2 years and maximum 4 years, and the program fee per semester is 15,500. The total credits of the program, the total credits are 116 because there is one project course which is equivalent to 2 courses. So it comes out to be 29 courses. If a student wants to exit the program after completion of the specified courses available in the first and second semesters, that is 56 credits if the student completes, then there is an exit option available. The award of postgraduate diploma in management on the request of the student if the student wants to exit. Apart from this, there are 4 stand-alone PG diplomas also, which are a different path. They don't fall a part of the management program. They are the stand-alone diplomas. That is postgraduate diploma in human resource management, postgraduate diploma in financial management, postgraduate diploma in operations management, and postgraduate diploma in marketing management. So these are stand-alone diplomas. So the links available for the student handbook and prospectus of Master of Business Administration. So this is all about the MBA program. Happy learning.
In the current global economy and digital era, learn or perish is the order of the day for all adults in all sectors of life. As a result, adult education and lifelong learning have assumed great significance. IGNOU as a national university has played its role by way of coming up with the Master of Arts in Adult Education program, MAAE.
MAAE program focuses on different aspects of theory and practice, policies and programs, as well as research, among other things related to adult education.
MAE is a 2-year modular program with multiple entry and exit options. Students who complete first year of the program will be awarded with the postgraduate diploma in adult education. In case they want to continue, they will complete the second year program and they will be awarded with the Master of Arts in adult education.
MAE program consists of 10 courses, 5 courses in each year, 8 theory courses, 6 credits worth, and 1 practical course of 10 credits in the first year, and 1 dissertation course of 10 credits in the second year.
Practical course of MAAE is divided into 3 components, namely community-based practical activities, workshop-based practical activities, and adult education training center or institution-based practical activities. And the student has to complete all the 3 components for completion of this practical course.
The minimum qualification required for admission to this program is bachelor's degree from any recognized university. The minimum duration is 2 years and the maximum duration is 4 years.
Instructional system follows multimedia approach. The major medium of instruction is self-learning print materials, which is supplemented by other media such as audio-video programs, broadcasting, that is interactive radio counseling, teleconferencing, personal contact programs or counseling sessions at the study centers, workshops and field work as well as internship at the institutional level.
Those who seek out a master's degree in adult education have a myriad of career and specialization options. They can go further for higher studies, that is research in various fields of adult education, an adult literacy teacher, faculty in university departments of adult and continuing education, extension and lifelong learning. Field functionaries in the projects implemented by state and central governments as well as NGOs. For more details, you can log on to
www.ignou.ac.in.
Don't forget to take admission. Hurry up. Welcome to all. Assessment, which is an integral part of teaching learning process, has taken many forms. When we look in today's classroom situation, the traditional type of assessment may not be working in an effective way. In today's session, we are going to discuss about authentic assessment. This is part of the course MAS 006, where you can see that we are training the teachers to involve in different types of assessment. Generally, what we are doing when we look at the cone of the teaching learning process, there will be learning outcomes, instructional strategies, and assessment. So here the 3 things, it should be aligned with each other. Then only we can see that these 3 cones are working together. So how the term assessment has been changed nowadays? When we look at it, earlier the term that is used is evaluation. So when we look at the terms, generally assessment, measurement, evaluation, these 3 terms generally we are using. So how do these terms differ from each other? In that context, assessment always aims to know how much the learner has achieved. Whereas in the case of the measurement, we can see that there is a quantitative or numerical value where it emphasizes the quantitative aspects. Coming to evaluation, we know that there is quantitative and qualitative aspects. In both these quantitative and qualitative aspects, when we want to put a worth or a value judgment for that, a judgment for the particular performance, then we say that it is evaluation. Then what is authentic assessment? This is coming in the minds of teachers how to perform authentic assessment. So first, let me see what is the meaning of authentic assessment. Authentic, we know that there is some kind of authenticity that we can reliable on that. So John Mueller, I try to quote John Mueller, authentic assessment, it is a form of assessment in which students are asked to perform real tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of essential knowledge and skills. So what is important here is the real task. What does it mean, the real task? We know that in the traditional assessment, there occurs the contrived experiences. Coming to the authentic assessment, we are providing the learners with a real life task. And this real life task, where we want the learner to demonstrate the application of knowledge and skills. Then in such context, the teacher has to engage the learners. And here we can see that this authentic assessment is very important when we look at, because nowadays we are emphasizing the holistic development of the child. So the scholastic as well as the co-scholastic, these two aspects come together where we want to assess not only the scholastic aspects as well as the co-scholastic aspects. So when we look at a curriculum, the curricular aspects, what types of activities we are giving, it is aligning with the scholastic as well as the co-scholastic aspects. So let me have a short description or a discussion on the traditional assessment, where we can see that there is the force choice measure. What does this force choice measure means? Or we can say that there is a force choice response on the part of the learners. How a teacher is going to assess a learner in a traditional classroom. There we can see that generally what drives the curriculum, that is the curriculum drives the assessment. So here we are giving emphasis for the curriculum, where we can say that it is a body of knowledge. So based on that body of knowledge, the teacher prepares various types of questions. It may be match the following, multiple choice, fill in the blanks, true or false. So different types of objective type questions the teacher may prepare. So in such context, what is the role of the learner? The learners are forced to choose a particular response. How do we know that the learner has acquired the competency, or the learner is able to demonstrate the learned facts in a real world? This is not taking place in a traditional classroom. So what is important here is that in the traditional classroom, in order to assess the cognitive domain, it is good, such type of questions. But in a classroom where the holistic development of the learners are emphasizing, there we have to use authentic assessment. So here from the force choice measure in the authentic assessment, we are giving emphasis to the ability to demonstrate a particular task in the real context. So next we can think about the educational philosophy that underlines the traditional assessment. What are the educational philosophy? When we think of the educational philosophy, the first philosophy that is underlying is, in the traditional assessment, a school's mission is to develop productive citizens. When we look at the traditional as well as the authentic assessment, there is no doubt that the school's mission is to produce a productive citizen, not an unproductive citizen. A productive citizen in the sense that a citizen is productive in the 3 domains. When he goes to a field, he should show the ability. Next philosophy in the traditional assessment, that is, to be a productive citizen, an individual must possess a certain body of knowledge and skills. That is the educational philosophy in the traditional assessment. A certain body of knowledge and skills is important. But coming to the authentic assessment, just possessing a certain amount of knowledge and skills is not important, whereas the learners has to demonstrate or perform a particular task in the real life, not in the contrived experience or the contrived context, but in the real context, the learner has to demonstrate a particular task. Coming to the third philosophy, educational philosophy that underlines these 2 assessments, that is, the school must teach the body of knowledge and skills in the traditional assessment. But what is the role of the school in the case of the authentic assessment is not only teaching this particular knowledge and skills, but also helping the learners to demonstrate, to exhibit their competencies, what they have acquired. Then coming to the next educational philosophy, we can see that if a student or the teaching to be successful, the school must then test students to see if they acquired the knowledge and skills. So what is important? Testing the learners. So here when we think of the test, we can see that the test is in the form of a hidden aspects. At the end, the summative evaluation, what is the form of it? When the question paper comes, only the student can understand. So it is in a hidden aspect. Coming to the authentic assessment, we can see that it is not hiding the test, it is teaching to the test. There what is important? The learner has a choice to express their willingness that how do the assessment should be done. And when we are giving rubrics, there is the possibility of knowing the criteria. Based on the criteria, how to perform. That is the next important thing that we can see. So there is a vast difference that we can see that in the authentic assessment, the school must help students become proficient at performing the task they will encounter after the process of instruction. So that proficiency, demonstrating the proficiency of the learner is very much important. Next philosophy, when we look, is that the body of knowledge is determined first, that knowledge becomes the curriculum. So we can say that in the traditional assessment model, the curriculum drives assessment because the importance is upon the knowledge and skills. So in order to acquire the knowledge and skills, whether the learner has acquired the knowledge and skills, the test should be maybe in the form of the force choice measure. Whereas coming to this authentic assessment, we can see that the assessment drives the curriculum. So first, the teacher and the student, they have to make a discussion on what type of activities and how do these activities can be assessed. So based on the assessment, the curriculum is molding or framing. Teachers first determine the task, the variety of tasks that students will perform to demonstrate their mastery, and then a curriculum is developed that will enable students to perform that task well. So it includes the acquisition of essential knowledge and skills. Whereas in traditional assessment, acquiring a body of knowledge and skills is important. Whereas coming to the authentic assessment, we can see that first planning the different types of tasks that a learner has to perform. That task, the different list of tasks, it is suggested or deciding by the teacher and the students. Hence, we can say that the assessment drives the curriculum. So here we have seen what are the educational philosophy that underlies the traditional assessment as well as the authentic assessment. So here, when we define the attributes, next we are going to define the attributes of traditional assessment and authentic assessment. When we think of the attributes, the first attribute that is in the traditional assessment is selecting a response. Already we have discussed how the response will be selected. So the students are typically given several choices. As stated earlier, it may be true or false, fill in the blanks, completion type, or name the following. Based on this, the students are forced to select one type of response. Whereas there is no scope for the expressive ideas or the constructed response of the learners. Whereas coming to the authentic assessment, there comes performing a task. So a task is performed after imbibing the required knowledge and skills. Then only the task can be performed. So the authentic assessment asks students to demonstrate understanding by performing a more complex task, usually representative of more meaningful application. So we can see that there is no meaningful application that is happening in the traditional assessment, whereas in the authentic assessment, there occurs the meaningful application. Coming to the second attribute of traditional assessment and authentic assessment, we can see that from the contrived to real life. What is this contrived? That is a created one. It's not a real life situation. So here in the test offer the contrived type of experiences. So the test, it may increase, we can increase the number of the test, and the students can give the response or appear the test several times. But in the authentic assessment, what we can see is that the proficiency of the learner is demonstrated through the different tasks, how the learner is performing. Then the third attribute when we comes, that is from the recall recognition of knowledge to construction and application of knowledge. What is happening generally when we analyze a question paper which is used in a traditional classroom? Majority of the questions come under the category of cognitive domain. Whereas there are three domains: cognitive, affective and psychomotor. The learners are the testing of the learner's knowledge is confined to the cognitive domain. Coming to the authentic assessment, what we can see that there is the scope for application of knowledge. Why? Because there is a task to perform. So while performing a task, the learner's proficiency and competency can be assessed. The next attribute, that is from the teacher structured to student structured. As I stated earlier, in traditional assessment, the curriculum is teaching. Based on the curriculum, the test is framed by the teacher. It may be a standardized test or a teacher-made test. So that type of test, it generally leads to the teacher structured. Whereas in the authentic assessment, the different tasks are decided by the teacher and the students, where the scope is for the student structured is happening in the authentic assessment. And the next attribute, that the indirect evidence to the direct evidence. So here in the traditional classroom, suppose we give a multiple choice question. There the response is a forced choice. They have to select from the various options. So here there is no evidence, just giving a response. Why did they select a particular response? Why they are sticking on that particular response? There is no evidence for that. Whereas in the authentic assessment, a learner is performing a task where there is an output, where they can show to the world or the teacher that they have prepared this type of output. So there is a product in the hand. Whereas the process is important. From the process, the product is also coming out. So we can see that in the traditional assessment, there is no direct evidence. Whereas in the case of the authentic assessment, we can see the learners are able to exhibit different types of products like that project report, then any models or any type of task what they are doing. So here, when we look at the alternative, the authentic assessment, there are some more terms that might be using in the aspect of authentic assessment, like alternative assessment, direct assessment, and then the performance-based assessment. So all these can be a part of a type of the authentic assessment. And in the case of the alternative assessment, we can say that this authentic assessment is a part of this alternative assessment also. So hope that you have understood what is authentic assessment. As stated earlier, that the ability of the learner to demonstrate their proficiency, that how they master the knowledge and skills. Then we have discussed the educational philosophy that underlines the traditional assessment as well as the authentic assessment. Then we have classified the attributes that comes under the traditional assessment and the attributes that comes under the authentic assessment. Hope that as teachers, we should change the mode of assessment from the traditional form to the authentic assessment, where the market demand of society is the employability and skill development, so that the learner's skills can be assessed in a real world experiences and the real task can be assessed in the real context. Thank you.
पहाड़ों पर जाना किसे पसंद नहीं। इस तरह के पहाड़ तो आपने देखे ही होंगे। चलिए आज आपको विशेष प्रकार के पहाड़ों की सैर कराते हैं। ये हैं कूड़े के पहाड़, जिनके बोझ तले दुनिया दबी जा रही है। इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों में हैं हमारे घरों, कार्यालयों, उद्योगों से निकलने वाली बेकार की वस्तुएं, जैसे इस्तेमाल किया हुआ कागज, फटे कपड़े, पुरानी लकड़ी, धातु, कांच के सामान, सब्जी फलों के छिलके, पुराने मोबाइल, लैपटॉप इत्यादि। कूड़े के ये पहाड़ न केवल शहरों में बल्कि गांव में भी पाए जाते हैं। अपशिष्ट की बढ़ती हुई मात्रा और इसकी विषैली प्रकृति हमारे पर्यावरण और स्वास्थ्य को नुकसान पहुंचाती है। कभी सोचा है इसका निपटान कैसे होता है, या क्या होता है इन कूड़े के पहाड़ों का? कैसे हम इस समस्या से छुटकारा पा सकते हैं? इन सभी प्रश्नों का उत्तर देने के लिए इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन में प्रमाण पत्र कार्यक्रम प्रस्तुत करता है। यदि आप नगर निगम में कार्यरत हैं, सैनिटरी इंस्पेक्टर हैं, अपशिष्ट प्रबंधक हैं या अपशिष्ट से जुड़ी हुई परामर्श सेवाएं, अनुसंधान या विकास कार्य करते हैं, तो ये कार्यक्रम आपके लिए सर्वोत्तम है। कार्यक्रम की न्यूनतम योग्यता है 12वीं उत्तीर्ण और इसे 6 महीने में पूरा किया जा सकता है, या अधिक से अधिक आप इसे 2 साल के अंतराल पर भी पूरा कर सकते हैं। कार्यक्रम में शामिल है स्व शिक्षण पाठ्यक्रम सामग्री, ऑडियो वीडियो संसाधन और विभिन्न माध्यमों से शिक्षण की सुविधा। तो फिर देर किस बात की, चलिए समस्या का नहीं समाधान का हिस्सा बने। अपशिष्ट प्रबंधन में प्रमाण पत्र कार्यक्रम में दाखिला लें। हम आपके स्वागत के लिए आतुर हैं। अधिक जानकारी के लिए देखें www.ignou.ac.in। धन्यवाद।
Then only we will be able
Hello learners and listeners, welcome to this program. I am Dr. J. Uma, faculty in the School of Gender and Development Studies. With me, Dr. Sunita Dhal, program coordinator for the certificate program in Gender and Science. Today, we are going to see the course BGS 003, Socio-Political Dimension of Gender and Science. Let me ask Sunita to introduce the course. After the introduction, we will talk about the entire context about the BGS 003. It is basically talks about the how interventions, specifically policy interventions, has improved the women's percentage in the science field, and various policy and its perspectives has been elaborately discussed in the course. Let me ask Dr. Sunita Dhal to introduce the course.
Thank you, Dr. G. Uma. And before we introduce the course, we can have a program introduction for our learners. And why do we need to have this kind of programs? And one of the important factor I could see that when we look at NEP 2020, it's a very important intervention by the university and with the School of Gender and Development Studies to look at the gender diversity in STEM field, and therefore the importance we can see that how multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary programs can be developed and launched in alliance with NEP 2020. This is one of the important factor I could say. And second, when we are more moving towards the gender diversity issue, so how particularly classical scientific method or modern science had been male centric in nature, and therefore many forms of knowledge, and for that matter women's participation in science was less, and it is increasing, and India is one of the it ranked first when it comes to women's representation in science in terms of education science education at the undergrad level. And therefore, like feminist scholars had offered an alternative view, alternative perspective to understand the gender and science intersection. And hence, as a result of both policies and the intervention by feminist scholars, you could see that women's access to STEM education is increasing over a period of time. Both not only the access and representation of women have increased, but at the same time the deep-rooted gender stereotype or gender biases which used to exist or which are existing in science, in the culture and practice of science and within scientific organizations and academic institutions. These issues have been interrogated by the scholars from various perspectives, as well as by the policy makers as well, how to address these deep-rooted gender biases that exist in science discipline. In India, we could see that gender transformative policies has come up with recommendations to improve participation of women in science. That where you can see that it lies the significance of the program. And now we come to what does this program provide. To the learners, it is very important because it is at the certificate level, and therefore we have the 6 months period to complete the program. So it's very important why what are there as a content in this program. The program provides a unique opportunity to research scholars, scientists, policymakers, and development professionals to critically engage with interdisciplinary fields. And the program has been designed to provide a holistic view of understanding gender in science by covering not only the basic conceptual concepts in gender in science, but also it is trying to bring about gender science technology interface. And there society also plays a very important role here in this. And what are the learning outcomes of this program is to impact theoretical concepts of science from a feminist perspective, to enrich capacity of learners with regard to policies, programs and schemes related to women in science, and to enable learners to critically engage with the societal science areas in the STEM field. And here not only we are talking about science, technology, engineering and medicine, but it is ecology, health, climate change, energy issues have also been taken up in this program.
And broadly, before we get into the program structure and number of courses, specifically this program, that is the BGS 003, Gender, Socio-Political Dimensions of Gender and Science. This is, it deals with the policy perspective of the government. Policies, if you know, policies, we make policies through formal and informal channels. Formal channels, basically, it's a government channels from legislative, executive and political. They make necessary policies in a specific field. As far as gender and science is concerned, specifically they have made certain policy interventions to improve female representation in the field of science. If you look at broadly, if you look at the policy interventions by the Government of India, till 5th 5-year plan, we don't have a gender perspective in the 5-year plans, existing policy. In the 6th 5-year plan, that government approach has been shifted from welfare to development, and the government has started multi-pronged strategies to intervene certain areas, specifically health, education and employment. When it comes to education, it has intervened at various levels, whether it's a primary education, upper primary, collegiate education, and specifically higher education. When it comes to science and technology, during that period in 1985 to 90, that government realized, specifically from 85 onwards, the government realized that the women's percentage in the scientific field is very less, so they need to intervene to improve the women's percentage in the scientific field. So then if they improve improve the women's percentage, certainly it improves their socio-economic status in the societies also. When we talk about gender relations, bringing the equity and equality, women's empowerment, specifically we need to improve their socio-economic status. That is very important. So thrust area is to improve the women's percentage at the higher educational level. That is the very important. So from 8th 5-year plan onwards, the government has planned certain policies, like specifically to empower the women, to improve the women's status and positions. So when it comes to a plan, specific plan is, one is that about gender budgeting. There is a specific unit in this course, that is the gender budgeting. The government has specifically allocated 30% of the resources in various ministries, including Ministry of Science and Technologies, to improve the women's percentage. One is the gender budgeting. Apart from budgetary provisions, it has provided various plans, policies to improve the, like for example, specifically the policies related to women's improve the women's percentage in the various organizations in the government sector. Okay, now let me ask you to introduce the course BGS 003. After that, we can talk about what are the policies as part of the course BGS 003.
That we have been covered in this particular course. So in this course, like as you have rightly looked at, that it is a kind of a course that is an amalgamation of concepts, policy programs, and some international and national debates in the area of gender and science. So it introduces not only debates on intersectionality, race, caste, culture, sexuality. It is in the context of science that the learners are going to study, and it firmly brings out some of the best practices promoting women and girls in science world over. So what are the best practices? Because this is a very sector specific area, and therefore there are policies which are there to promote women and girls in science, research, education, innovation, even building R&D infrastructures. Therefore we thought this the course should actually be oriented towards policy formulations to be able to bring a kind of a real transformation within the society, so that we could see more women not only pursuing science education, but at the same time women scientists in the leadership position and in R&D sector as well. And with this, the course is having total of 5 blocks, having women in science education, Indian policies and program, women in industrial sectors, like how in small scale manufacturing and health industries women's representations is there. Then current global trends like international initiatives on gendering science. So also global patterns of gender disparity. And then the last is the emerging debates about having intersectional perspective in science and having genetics, because there is so much in genetics. So how genetics and gender debates are there theoretically in the discourse of science policy. And as a part, like the key focus of this course is importance of science communication. Like unless and until, what is science communication? There are 2 factors of science, important aspects of science communication. One is the dissemination of science to the society and to understand the scientific social responsibilities. So unless and until any kind of innovation for that matter, if we are looking at climate change and its adaptability or mitigation strategy to climate change by adapting sustainable behavior at the individual level. So even access to new renewable energy technologies. Unless and until it disseminates to the society, then we can't even change, or we can't apply the science for for transformation or the real social change to come at the societal level. Therefore, science communication here is very important. And it looks at the impact of, not only the impact of science on society, but how society also reacts to scientific intervention. And COVID is the very important intervention in that. So how society reacts so that it can actually bring about an improvised technology, in the or for the future generations to come. Therefore, the scientific responsibility is also a very important aspect of science communication. Like the example we get in the unit, it is there, the Science Express, which traveled around thousands of kilometers and has had 555 halls and has been visited by more than 18 million of people. And so how to exhibit science? It's a Science Express is a way where it has reached to the mass that what is science, what is innovation, and how to encourage the mass, the students, to be able to take up science studies in their own college. Then this course then try to build up the what is gender role, gender stereotyping, and how gender is an occupational barriers that exist in science. So gender roles, as we know how, the segregated role, I gave the example here of Margaret Mead, a cultural anthropologist who conducted research on Chamri tribe and summarizes her finding that the Chamri women, according to Mead, did not abide by the traditional gender roles because they were universally followed. For example, they were the provider of food through fishing. But fishing activity was not associated with women earlier, right? So fishing was kind of a male activity. So it is like, the whole idea is that here society plays a very important role, that gender roles and socialization create gender stereotyping. Yes. And these gender stereotypings are very, it's there in every institutions. So science in that sense is also is male-centric.
Male-centric, gender stereotyped.
So the view that women are too emotional to study science, it's something that a stereotype is there, and therefore you could see that women are not so encouraged to do science when we were studying particularly. So, and which created an occupational barriers, like gender as an real occupational barriers to pursue science. And what are these occupational barriers is discrimination during hiring, job descriptions often contain gender biases, right? Glass ceiling when it comes to promotion, and lower pay than men for similar amount of work done. And in fact, the Nobel laureate like this year,
Economics Nobel laureate,
yes,
she was clearly pointed out regarding the discrimination in the workplace. If the men and women, if they want to get the same pay, women, they have to work more hours to reach the level of male members in the certain institutions.
Yes. So this is gender is like, look at the developed society, like US, and the data figures out that how unequal pay or wage exist on the basis of gender. So this is, it's quite, evident through the recent data and sexual harassment at workplace. So that gender, when it looks, seen as a barrier in pursuing science, occupational barrier. So you can see through the data that how the representation is abysmal or small in international and national level. So women still represent like 29% of researchers globally. So like when we are looking at the most prestigious awards like Santi Swarup Bhatnagar awards, only 20 women have received like from India the prestigious award, and less than 15% except in scientific funding agencies such as DBT and ICAMR. It's like recent past reports have also pointed out that less than 15% women scientists are there in scientific agencies, except a few like DBT, ICMR and other institutions or central agencies. So in the central sector for resources also, approximately 19.1% of R&D workforce consisted of women. And so here at the one hand, we have the women, India ranked first in terms of like women representation in science education, like at the undergraduate level, right? But again, you see that when it comes to translating in terms of science into profession, then even if like 15%, which is a good percentage where women are there in
existing
scientific
institutions.
Institution as officer, as scientist, science educators, teachers and technologists, right? But at the same time, the question of leadership also comes in. How many women scientists are heading the scientific organization and institutions as leaders? So here, not only the leadership but mentorship network, how to look at the women science as role models, that also this course speaks about in detail. And what are the challenges and issues that we can look at here? One is the lack of family support, motivation to, like, challenges and issues of women scientists to pursue science, lack of family support, motivation, then lack of awareness regarding available opportunities given to girls and women, lack of avenues for knowledge and skill enhancement, obstacles in re-entry in science-oriented career after having a career break due to motherhood and marriage and motherhood, lack of opportunities for an alternative career path, and lack of mentorship, networking and role models. This lack of mentorship, networking and role models are very important. Unless and until we have that mentorship in science for women students, then it becomes difficult for them to reach the level of leadership position. Then we look at job insecurity from 1 year or shorter contracts, impact of maternity leaves on their career, and then unconscious bias hinders women's employment in STEM field, sexual harassment at the workplace. These are the specific challenges that women face in science, because as a practice and culture, it is patriarchal in nature. So as you have sixth 5-year plan onwards, like the initiatives had been taken up by the government in terms of promoting women in science, and you have the national policy for empowerment of women.
2001.
Then science technology for women, the 10th 5-year plan, like women scientist scheme was introduced. Then the biotechnology career advancement and reorientation program was initiated. Science, technology and innovation policy 2013 is very important. And 12th 5-year plan, what had happened, that the Kiran, like DST, Department of Science and Technology, it consolidated all the existing program into Kiran, that is knowledge involvement and research advancement through nurturing. And now to 2020, we have the Gati Charter to promote women in science. So during, you could see that like 12th 5-year plan, all women-oriented schemes of DST were consolidated, and focus was, why Kiran was important, was to bring women scientists back into SNT employment through promoting research and innovation, then improving the R&D infrastructure in women universities, then initiating the mobility scheme for women scientists, like if they would like to shift, then they can opt for as an early career, in their early career as young scientists, they can opt for, and creating, like giving award for, 2 women scientists, those who have really worked at the grassroots level for bringing about development, like women's empowerment or development at the grassroots level. So these are some of the focuses of the Indian government, like in 12th 5-year plan towards, in terms of policy, bringing about gender transformative policy. And what are the other new programs in India? Is Indo-US Fellowship for Women in STEM for international collaborations in research, like how to have international collaborations so that you can build the network and mentorship as well as role model also. It's an exchange of the best practices in their area of research. Thereby, they can also achieve excellence in their field. Then Vigyan Jyoti, which encourages girl students for taking STEM career. Then Athena Swan Charter, participating research and academic institutions are required to analyze data from a gender perspective, like gender equity and so that gender diversity and equity perspective, so that much more gender, they can develop action plans for bringing the real improvement at the institution level. And in 2020 we had the Gati Charter, which aims to create an enabling environment for equal participation of women in STEM disciplines and bring about a systemic transformation. That we were talking about gender stereotypings which exist across scientific institutions, academic institutions and organizations. How to bring about gender equity across institution, that is the aim of Gati Charter, which was launched in the year 2020. And so with these we could see that how gender sensitive policies were in or have been in place, and the result is that more and more women and girls are coming forward with science. And now more with Gati, I think we would be able to see the more gender disaggregated data across institutions can be analyzed to build a transformative action plan at the microclimate of the institutions.
With this course is BGS 003. This is a certificate level program. This program has 3 courses. Each course, as a learner, you need to take one assignments for each courses.
Yes.
All the assignments were already uploaded on the IGNOU website. If you log into IGNOU website www.ignou.ac.com, you need to go to the students section, where there is one separate section called download. Under that, the assignments, all the assignments were uploaded. This is the 6 months program, but your registration is valid for 2 years.
Yes.
But you have to, after going, hope you all must have gone through the material also uploaded in the e-Gyan course. So all 3 courses material is available. So you can download the assignment questions and you can read the course material, and you need to write your assignments by hand. We accept only handwritten assignments. So after completing your assignments, you could able to scan all the assignments, and the scanned assignments you need to send it to the email ID provided on the website itself, along with the assignment questions. That is SOGDS.assignments@ignou.ac.in. While writing the assignments, we don't accept any plagiarized assignments. You have to go through all the course material, and you need to properly understand that. And at the same time, you could able to see the assignment questions. Based on the assignment questions, you need to reflect your understanding while writing your answer. Hope you could able to clearly understood the course BGS 003 as well as writing about assignments. Thank you so much for listening these sessions. We could able to meet again for another session.
Another session where we can discuss more about international initiatives in promoting gendering, towards gendering science. So with this, we thank our learners and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to this program on online tutoring and skills and competence of online tutors. In one of the introductory programs that I had presented, I had underlined that for online teaching and learning, or for that matter